Loxton, and this doco is going to be about why the Vikings were successful raiders.
The main reasons the Vikings were successful raiders was because they were smart. They especially chose areas to raid that were impossible to block off from enemies, which made it easy to attack. In the 8th century, Vikings started to raid the coast of the British Isles, which was a success. Later in the 10th century, the Vikings started using hit and run, which would consist of raiding and then taking their riches back to their successful lands.
Different types of Viking warships. One big reason the Vikings started expanding their raiding was because of the invention of new Viking warships. The Draka. A Draka was a warship made to be sturdy and easy to maneuver, as it had to be able to handle the open ocean and smaller rivers. It also needed to hold between 50 and 60 men. The Vikings built the Draka from wood with a metal beam to support the hull. The Nar. The Nar, on the other hand, was not nearly as big. However, it had a lot of storage, which was very useful for trading goods like gold and spices. This boat was only powered by sail and could reach speeds between 12 and 14 knots, which was quite fast for their day and age. This boat couldn't quite fit as many Vikings, but had a lot more storage. Mostly all of the ship was built of wood.
Viking weaponry and armour. Another reason the Vikings were successful was because of their weaponry and especially armour. Swords. Swords had to be simple yet functional, and there was little to no design on them. An average sword was 90 centimetres long with a blade of 80 centimetres and a handle of 10. Each sword was double-edged, which meant that a warrior could slash in the enemy in both directions, although they were a secondary weapon. Spears. Spears were the most common weapon in the Viking artillery, as they were cheap and effective. There were two types of spears, one which was used for throwing and the other was used for thrusting. The spears were 2 to 3 metres long and were popular because of their range compared to the sword.
The battle axe. The battle axe was used a lot amongst Norsemen in the Viking Age, but its popularity is often misunderstood in modern times. It was not superior to the spear and was regularly used for agriculture or building ships. The axe was intimidating to the Christian territories that the Vikings sacked. The armour. Most Vikings carried a wooden shield with them and wore clothing made from animal hide for protection. They also wore leather helmets, but the leaders wore metal helmets and chainmail.
Here are some examples of Viking raids. The start of the Viking raids marks the beginning of the Viking era. The first recorded Viking raid occurred in the year 793 against the monastery of Lindisfarne near the northern coast of England. The Vikings from Scandinavia began raiding the Germanic in England in 787 AD. They ruled most of England for 100 years until the Anglo-Saxons fought back under the power of Alfred the Great. Another example of a Viking raid was in 866 when the North armies captured York, one of the major two cities in Anglo-Saxon England. Why were the Vikings able to start raiding? The Vikings were able to start raiding because in Scandinavia they had a lot of wood but needed other resources, so they built longships and sailed to coastal villages to raid them. The Viking Age started when